All right, so today we're going to write a discussion essay. Well, it's not just a discussion essay, but it's going to be discussion plus opinion essay because it says discuss both views and give your own opinion and examples as well. So the task is, many people believe that spending a lot of money on weddings is fine, while others completely disagree. Discuss both views and give your own opinion and examples. So before we start, are there any synonyms for word wedding or marriage that you can think of? Please try to write these words in the chat. Okay, yes, newlyweds, these are people who have just married. You can say that, that's right. So here are some synonyms for that. Some topical vocabulary that can be used throughout the essay. That's wedding, marriage, wedding ceremony, marriage ceremony, nuptial ceremony, matrimony or holy matrimony, and family union. So holy matrimony, this is the ceremony that you have in church. Okay, then you also can say that, well, for instance, when two join the wedlock. Yes, you can also, hello Natalia. This is our topic for today's lesson. It's many people believe that spending a lot of money on weddings is fine, while others completely disagree. Discuss both views and give your own opinion and examples. So it's a discussion essay, and we are brainstorming vocabulary for the topic of wedding. So synonyms for wedding, it's wedding, marriage, wedding ceremony, marriage ceremony, nuptial ceremony, matrimony, holy matrimony, and family union. Okay, there is an idiom when two join the wedlock, or you can even say to tie the knot. It's also to tie the knot. It's a synonym for getting married. Okay. So, do you know any synonym? Well, could you say in English "узы брака"? Does anybody happen to know that? So, okay. So in English you say the bonds of marriage. Bonds of marriage. Okay. So any synonyms for expensive or to spend a lot of money on weddings? So synonyms for cheap, expensive, to spend a lot of money. For example, how do you say раскошелиться? Something can be costly, right? So synonym for expensive. So you can say to fork out or to shell out. You can also say to squander, транжирить. To squander, and squander as a noun, расточительство. So this can also be so squander and to squander. Okay, and you can also say to cost a pretty penny. For example, it costs a fortune, or it costs a pretty penny. Or you can also say to cost a fortune. Okay. Then there is an expression to hold a party. So to have a party or to hold a party, you can also say to throw a party. So now while we're learning the vocabulary, can you also write it on a separate piece of paper? Because while you're writing, you start to memorize it. And you can also use this while you're writing the essay. So to hold a party or to throw a party, and you can throw a lavish party or a lavish ceremony. It's like in Russian we say закатить, вечеринку, in English they to throw. Synonym for a party, that would be a special occasion or a special event. and something can be celebrated grandly, and you can have the memory of the event until the very last breath, or usually more common expression is until the dying breath. Yes. Okay. So, before we start actually writing ideas, let's look at an essay constructor. So it's about discussion essays, and in the introduction, you can say that, well, just any other phenomenon has both positive and negative aspects that has to be or have to be weighed against each other. So too, those of, or the question whether to spend a lot of money on weddings or not, requires, should be carefully analyzed, requires special consideration, should be taken into account. There are various options you can choose from, especially when we talk about something. So in the rest of the essay, I will make an effort to outline arguments and examples in favor and against of such an approach. So can I ask you to write 2 sentences about the topic? I will once again show you, I will copy the topic in the chat. So try to write 2 sentences for the introduction using, here's the topic in the chat, using this template, or this, as I call it, essay constructor. You have this file with, with this template in your Skype. Sometimes you need to change something. For example, not that has to be weighed, but maybe have to be weighed because it's plural. And here it can be require or requires, depending on what you choose here. Okay, so just as any other change in our life has both positive and negative aspects that have to be weighed against each other, so too. But please, well, if you think that N, it means noun, существительное, or a noun phrase. It means, well, like an expression with noun. For example, disadvantages of spending money, for example, or spending a lot of money on weddings. It means a noun. If it says SV, it means subject and verb, подлежащее сказуемое. And if it's N, it's just noun without a verb. But here, if you write it like this, about change, you mean that wedding is a change in life. But, and if you write it like this, you'll have to write about advantages and disadvantages of weddings. So please don't copy this blindly. I mean this template, but try to think about the topic that you are writing, because you're writing on a different topic now. You're writing on the topic advantages and disadvantages of marriage. Or some people think that marriage is good and some people think is bad. Please discuss both points of view. This is what you're writing about. But we are writing about, well, maybe you will continue, maybe it will be correct after this, I don't know. But from what I can see, you're not writing about the topic whether people should spend a lot of money on weddings or not. Well, grammatically, everything is correct. Well, you don't need to analyze people who want to have lavish ceremony. You need to analyze the question of whether money should be spent on ceremonies, but not people. Hello, Vitaly. Okay, Natalia. NP, it means noun phrase. It means that you need a noun, like money on weddings, money that is spent on weddings, but not a sentence um, like subject and verb. Hello, Vitaly. We are writing on the topic. Many people believe that spending a lot of money on weddings is fine, while others completely disagree. Discuss both views and give your own opinion and examples. Okay. Okay, just as any other phenomenon, but it tends to have, because it's singular, both merits and drawbacks that have to be weighed, because it's merits and drawbacks is plural, so tends to have, because it's phenomenon, only one. So you need to think about the grammar form too. Here it's, well, phenomenon has, but phenomenon tends, also don't forget, and have to be weighed, yes? So because it's plural, this one is plural, merits and drawbacks, that's why it should be have. And a phenomenon, it's singular, that's why it's tends. So don't just copy it blindly, think about what you're writing. Grammatically here, okay. Tends to have both merits and drawbacks that have to be weighed against each other. So too the question whether to have a wedding ceremony or not should be properly accounted for. But the question is not whether to have a ceremony or not, but it's whether to have a lavish wedding or expensive wedding ceremony or not. It's not the question of whether to have it or not in general, but whether it should be expensive or not expensive. Should be properly accounted for. In the rest of this essay, I will make an effort double F, effort to briefly discuss arguments and examples in favor of and against such an expensive event. Okay. So what you need to change here is tends to have, then have to be weighed, and whether to have a lavish wedding ceremony. 3 things, and the rest is fine. Okay, here is another way of saying this. You can say expensive wedding ceremonies have become widespread in wide range or around the globe. And while there are, for example, undisputed benefits for throwing lavish ceremonies, some of their negative shortcomings cannot be overlooked by those who are planning to get married. For example, it's another way of writing the first introductory sentence of an essay. Let's look at one. We are not going to write it now, but you can use this for your future discussion essays if you feel that it's convenient for you. So an example of this sentence or for another topic can be like this. Just as any the topic will be, some countries have introduced a law that limits the number of hours employers can ask their employees to work. Is it a positive or negative development? Discuss both points of view. And so, just as any other regulation has both positive and negative aspects that have, oh my gosh, that have to be weighed off, that have to be weighed against each other, so too those of limits of the number of hours a person can work should be carefully analyzed. In what comes next, I make an effort to outline arguments and examples in favor and against such a policy. Okay, so this is how you can do this. And another way, according to this template, you can say limits of the number of hours a person can work have become de facto standard in developed countries. And while they have unquestionable benefits, their inherent shortcomings can hardly be overlooked by an astute observer. So using these templates, you can make very, very complicated essays. But please don't do it blindly. You need to think whether it's suitable to your topic or not, because it doesn't work in absolutely every direction, but it can be some kind of help. Okay, so moving back to our essay, can I ask you to write in the chat ideas for spending a lot of money on weddings? So what can be ideas for spending a lot of money on weddings? One of them, just one of them, will be enough, but let's brainstorm them first, because we'll need one paragraph for these ideas and one paragraph against. Just short phrases. What are the ideas for throwing lavish wedding ceremonies? It happens once in a life. Yes, it's a once in a lifetime event. Okay. Well, at least it is supposed to happen, because for some people it happens several times in a life. It's one of the most important events in your life that should be remembered. Yes, you need to have good memories of this event. So there are even two ideas here, and they can be united in one paragraph. So it's an important event or once in a lifetime event, and it should be remembered. You should have good memories until your last dying breath. Yes. Or until the very last breath. Okay, any other? It can be the beginning of your new life, and the good beginning makes the good ending. Okay, right. Well, here are my ideas. So getting married is one of the most important events of an individual's life. That's what you actually said already. Special events need to be celebrated grandly, as it happens only once or a few times in a lifetime. And people can show off their status in society by spending a lot of money on marriages. Hence, it is a good idea for rich people. Okay, so if there are any other ideas, you can also write them. But what are ideas against throwing lavish wedding ceremonies? Okay, newlyweds should take a huge loan, too much decorations and too many decorations, and money will be thrown away. Okay, right. So they have to pay a bank loan, and this can become ruinous for the future family because they have to pay off the loan, the bank loan. It should gather all the members of your family who you may see only several times in your life. So it must leave good memories. Okay, I believe this is well an idea for having a good an expensive ceremony. Okay. So here are my ideas. Well, I've already mentioned my ideas for spending a lot of money on weddings, and here are ideas against. There are a lot of people around the globe who are dying of starvation, so you'd better spend this money helping poor people. Many families spend a lot on wedding, even though they cannot actually afford to, so they take on debts, which can be ruinous for the future family. If there are any other ideas, please write them in the chat. They have to buy such an expensive dress, right? Okay, so if there are any other ideas, feel free to write them in the chat. And now let's write an introduction. So in the introduction, you can use something from the templates if you wish, but basically we need 3 sentences. A general sentence, a general statement. Then we need paraphrase of the task. And then we need an outline. So in this essay, I'm going to something like this. You can copy your previous sentences if you want, but with my corrections. Okay, so all the money is mostly spent because money, this is singular in English, is spent on guests. So to spend money on something. Like money spent on the brain is never spent in vain. So it should be on. So all the money is mostly spent on guests, not on fiance. Okay, not on fiance or not on bride and groom. Okay. So, all right, now let's write the introduction. Here's an example. So you need a general statement, like a wedding is a very important event, something like this. Then you paraphrase the task. Well, some people believe, others believe. And in this essay, or it's my opinion, yes? So it says also, give your own opinion. So you need to say, well, here's an expression that I recommend. I adhere to the view that. That's what you can say. So here's my example of an introduction. A wedding is beyond a shadow of doubt a once-in-a-lifetime event, and most people try to make it memorable by throwing lavish parties and ceremonies, which cost a pretty penny. While some people do not find such celebrations worth the expense, others would hotly dispute this contention and maintain that not only is life supposed to be enjoyable and entertaining, but it should also be full of good memories. I adhere to the view that the idea of spending a lot of money on weddings is only suitable for those people who have the necessary means for it. And of course, your opinion can be different, but this expression, I adhere to the view that, I would recommend to use it. Okay, so we have 3, 5, 6 minutes for this. Yes, Tatiana, to write the introduction. So what we need is a general statement like this, then paraphrase of this task, and your opinion. So you can use some expressions from the template if you want, but you need this just the whole essay. I mean, sorry, the whole introduction now. Okay, so just as any other phenomenon, getting married is one of the most significant part in people's lives. Lives is spelled like this. However, there is no absolute agreement on whether a wedding party, should cost a pretty. What is this? Should cost a pretty penny. That's all. To cost a pretty penny. It's not cost a pretty, but and it's not be. It's just cost. Should cost a pretty penny. So Natalia has just written to me that she has no connection to the webinar. I'm going to try to help her. Okay, so Tatiana, it's very important. After should, you write well, cost. But why do you write be? You already have a verb, should cost. You should buy this car. That is, you should buy. There is no be. You can say you should be a teacher, but then it's be. Or you should buy a car, then it's buy. So it should cost a pretty penny. It's a set expression. It should cost a pretty penny. Where is penny? There is no. Okay, in the rest of this essay, I will. Oh, Natalia has come back. Okay, great. So in the rest of this essay, I will make an effort to outline both advantages and disadvantages of having marriage ceremony. Okay, having a ceremony or throwing a ceremony. Throwing a ceremony is a little bit more complicated, while having is absolutely correct. So what you need is to make an effort to outline. Okay, and in the essay, very often you have an expression like while. So in your paraphrase, you can use another word, whereas. It will be, well, it will sound very nice. So here is my example of just a paraphrase. It's another one. So, okay, so Natalia, yes, we tried to write an introduction using the template, and now we are writing an introduction using our own ideas and expressions. So you write a general statement on the topic, then you paraphrase the task, and you give an outline and express your opinion, because it's a give your opinion. So, Vitaly, a lot of people, not lots, a lot of people believe that spending a lot of money on weddings is fine. But you're copying this from the task. It's not very nice. You need to paraphrase this, because if you copy it from the task, your lexical resource mark will be very low, not more than 5 maybe, or, well, it depends on the rest of the essay, of course. However, it is other side of the, it is the other side of the argument. The other side of this argument. Okay. In this essay, I will be discussing without about both advantages and drawbacks of you are not going to discuss advantages and disadvantages of wedding parties, because this is another topic. You need to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of spending a lot of money on weddings, and not advantages and disadvantages of weddings. If you write it like this, your task achievement will also decrease. So in this essay, we'll be discussing without about. So discuss something. Okay, right. So, and here's one more way of how you can paraphrase the sentence. Weddings are felt by some people not to be worth the effort and expense put into them, whereas other people would hotly dispute this contention. Okay, so in this expression, whereas other people would hotly dispute this contention, can be memorized. So, and whereas, it's a very nice synonym for while also. Okay, so now we need to write the main body paragraph. Main body paragraph. And that's going to be arguments for. So arguments for, well, for example, we can say that it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. It's a very important event. We need to have good memories. Something like this. Maybe only one idea will be enough, or maybe just 2 aspects of the same idea. Like it's an important event, it should be remembered for until the end of your life. And you write the topic sentence with your main idea. Then you explain it. Then you give an example. And then you make a mini conclusion. Okay, so you give one reason why it is good. Then you explain in more detail, give some details. Give an example that supports your explanation, and make a mini conclusion. So there can be 4 sentences, or maybe some of these parts will take you about 2 sentences. So here is my example. Undeniable is the fact that getting married is one of the most significant special occasions of an individual's life. This is my topic sentence. And then I explain my idea. In fact, the nuptial ceremony is supposed to happen only once, and therefore those who tie the knot want to have the best recollection of this episode until their last dying breath. I explain further. Hardly is this possible without spending considerable amounts of money. And then I give an example. For instance, according to a recent survey conducted by a group of British scientists, there is a direct correlation between the sums spent on marriage ceremonies and the memories of the event the respondents had. And I continue this example with another sentence. The results showed that those people who were ready to shell out for a luxurious ceremony on average had better recollections of their weddings. And then I make a mini conclusion. Thus, it becomes evident that events that are celebrated grandly are more likely to be remembered forever. Okay, also please attention here. So, shell out is a word that is used mostly in spoken language and not in academic essays. That's why I put it in reverted commas, in quotation marks. So, for instance, if you don't know a word, a synonym, that can be used in official, informal academic writing, you can put it, well, you can use a spoken word and put it in quotation marks or reverted commas. So it is like not you are speaking, but as if you are quoting someone. And this will not be a stylistic mistake this way. Okay, so now you have about 10 minutes to write this main body sentence. Paragraph, I mean. So can everyone hear me? There seems to be some problems with connection probably. Well, because I see people are leaving the chat room and coming back. Okay, so now please try to write the main body sentence using the arguments for. Then, well, you can write it on your computer and then copy this in the chat. Basically, what we're doing now is writing topic, sentence, explanation, example, and then writing mini conclusion. So here is my example of the first body paragraph. Okay, so you can also write it on your computer and then copy it into the chat so that it is saved, so that it doesn't disappear, the text. You can have about 10 minutes on this. If there are any questions, please write them in the chat. Okay, there are not many events in our life that should be remembered for the rest of the life, but it's life, life. So there are not many events that should be remembered for the rest of the life. I think you need to put away in our life in the beginning. And the wedding ceremony is one of them. So everything ought to be perfect on that day. Okay, not in but on. And also so it's not suitable for writing, it's more for speaking. So everything ought to be is fine, but so this is something that is more colloquial. I would say therefore instead of so. Try to write therefore, and that will be fine. After therefore, you need a comma. Okay, so first of all, a wedding is a good opportunity to gather close friends who live away from you. Secondly, a wedding is a unique event in life that connects the fate of two people, which follows later influences the life path of each person. So, Vitaly, what you're doing now is you're developing two ideas. I mean, you're expressing two ideas. But in IELTS evaluation criteria, you need to be able to develop and justify your ideas. You have two ideas. It means that you will have to write an explanation for the first idea, an explanation for the second idea, an example for the first idea, an example for the second idea, a mini conclusion for the first idea, and mini conclusion for the second idea. So while I understand that you want to express as many ideas as you want, but it will be very problematic to write a balanced IELTS essay. So just one, you don't have to express this. I understand this is your argument, but you have two arguments. And in the main body paragraph, you need to make a topic sentence with the main idea and then give an explanation for this. So if you want, and you are giving two ideas for the main for the topic sentence. So it means that you will need to have two explanations, two examples, and two mini conclusions. What you can do, instead of saying first of all and secondly, you can make the second sentence an explanation of the first. And then you will need an example and a mini conclusion. If it's logical, let's see. A wedding is a good opportunity to gather close friends who live far away from you. A unique event that connects fate of two people. Well, maybe this is due to the fact that a wedding is a unique event. So that's why it gathers close friends. So connect these two ideas. One of them is an idea, the other one is explanation, and then you give an example and a mini conclusion. Because of course you can create 5 ideas, but then it will be just a huge essay, and you won't have time for this. So only one idea, one explanation for this idea, one example, one mini conclusion. That will do. It will be more effective. So you will not be evaluated on how many good ideas you're going to produce. You're going to be yes, only one argument for having, absolutely, only one argument for having lavish ceremonies, for having expensive parties. Because if you have two arguments, you need to develop these arguments, okay? And you will need a lot of time for this. Once again, you are not going to be evaluated on how many arguments you're going to produce, how many different grammar constructions you use and how correctly it's going to be, and on how many different words you show that you know on the topic, how many synonyms you can use. So choose only one idea and try to develop this idea. For example, in my paragraph, you can see that marriage is one of the most significant special occasions, and then I explain it. It is supposed to happen only once, and people want to remember it. People want to have the best recollection, and you need to spend money for this. So this is only one idea, and here I try to explain it, and only then I give an example. It's only one idea. I don't quite understand what you mean by not see after. Okay. Okay, so a commonly held belief, it should be with F, because it's a noun, is that wedding is supposed to be once time in a lifetime. No, it's not once time in a lifetime, it's once in a lifetime, like this. Once in a lifetime. Without R at the end. Once in a lifetime event. As evidence of this, they point to the celebrating marriage ceremony, which should leave without S. Yes, so should leave. You should buy this car. That's just should plus infinitive and nothing else. Should leave a permanent mark in their memory. So people try to shell the money. What does it mean? To shell out. You don't say to shell the money, to shell out. For the matrimony as much as possible. Well, to shell. Okay. For example, further newlyweds delayed their ceremony until they will not be sure that they saved enough money. Okay. So, future, not further, or would be. Newlyweds. Delay the ceremony. Delay, just present simple, that's all. Delay the ceremony. Until they are sure. After until, after if, after when, there is no will. Until they are sure. Or I would even say in writing it's better to write confident, because sure it's more for speaking. Confident, it's better. So until they are sure, until they are confident that they have saved enough money, that they have saved enough money for a decent celebration. Okay. Thus, because people save the money especially for the event, they feel absolutely confident to throw a lavish party. Okay. Just this sentence that I have copied needs to be false. Okay. So, no doubt that there is a strong correlation between the amount of money one spends and the quality of photos, cars, and so on that he or she gets. So, Natalia, to try to avoid the word get in academic IELTS, instead of this, because gets, it's a spoken word, receives, here it should be receives, because it's just a stylistic difference. Okay. For instance, the researching article from Women's View says that 88% of couples wish to have an unforgettable party and are ready. They wish and are ready, because there's another verb. To save money during the long period for this idea. For a long period. Yes, for a long time. It would sound more natural. Okay, right. So Vitaly, you can also write something, because you only had one idea. You also need to develop it, give an example, give a mini conclusion. If you have something else, you can also write on this. Now let's move on to the second paragraph. And very often you can also say, sensible as this approach may be, instead of sensible, you can sometimes write beneficial, and this is a very advanced grammar construction. It's called fronting. You can memorize it for the second view, for expressing the second view in the second paragraph. Sensible as this approach may be, как бы ни был разумен данный подход, Тем не менее. So a number of families spend excessive funds on weddings even though they cannot actually afford to do so. This is the first idea. Now I expand it. As a result, they take on debts which could be eventually ruinous for the new family because of the financial problems they experience later. An example. For example, 1 in 10 families in Russia split up because of the heavy financial burden they have paying off the bank loan they had borrowed for the wedding ceremony. And mini conclusion. To conclude, the idea of spending a lot of money on weddings seems to be sensible only for wealthy people who can hold such parties within their financial means. Okay, so also please write a paragraph. You have the topic sentence. Then it's explanation. Then it's example. And then it's mini conclusion. Okay, so this expression, sensible as this approach may be, you can put another adjective instead of sensible. Хотя этот подход и является разумным, тем не менее, a number of families spend excessive funds. You use this expression to introduce a contrasting idea. Ну или так, каким бы разумным ни казался данный подход, the complete form would be as sensible as this approach may be. But you can put away the first as. This construction is called fronting. You can read about it. It's a very advanced construction. It can only be used in writing. And I recommend to use it only when there are two ideas, two opposing ideas, two opposite views, and you use this expression to introduce the second opposite opinion. Instead of sensible, you can also use beneficial. Beneficial as this approach may be, and then you continue with subject and predicate. Try to memorize it as a set expression. Don't try to make such phrases yourself, because it's very easy to make a mistake. Okay, so talking about not spending a lot of money on. Spend money on. Talking about not spending a lot of money on wedding parties, sensible. Vitaly, you need to use this expression in the beginning of the sentence and in the beginning of the paragraph. So you cannot write just sensible as this approach may be. It should be the very beginning of the paragraph and of the sentence. Don't change anything. This is the first words, the first phrase in the second paragraph, and nothing else. Don't change it. Okay, so sensible as this approach may be, it is a unique event in the life of everyone and should be remembered for a long time by making expensive photos, because absolutely we know we have to pay for quality. Okay, but we know we have to pay for quality. This is absolutely a spoken phrase. Let's make it academic. It is a well-known fact that one should pay to be able to receive a high quality product or service. This will be academic. It is a well-known fact that one should pay to be able, or one should be ready to pay to be able to receive a high quality product or service. Because we know we have to pay for quality. It's just grammatically it's correct, but it's not correct style. Then, talking about not spending a lot of money for the wedding party, if you take this phrase away, nothing will change in your expression of ideas. And so, and besides, sensible as this approach may be, it should be about the previous paragraph. That's why you cannot put it in the middle of the sentence. Only in the beginning, only as the very first phrase of the second paragraph. Okay. Okay, so sensible as this approach may be, after this there is no but, кома, запятая. Дальше подлежащее сказуемое, ничего не добавляем. Sensible as this approach may be, they. Кто такие they? You need to say can still be disappointed by the day. You need to say that like newlyweds or maybe husband and wife, bride and groom. It's a new paragraph, so you cannot start a new paragraph with they. Sensible as this approach may be, comma, husband and wife can be disappointed by the day when something unpredictable can occur and the budget is not able to protect this special day from unwilling points. A friend of mine. Then never use contractions in academic essay. Does not. You cannot say doesn't. So a friend of mine does not want to talk about her wedding because a terrible quarrel between relatives spoiled it completely. Okay. And here it can be, for example, you can try to add some cohesion to your essay by writing something like, for example. Okay, so for the next time, can you please finish this essay? Here you can also, if at the exam you have time to express your opinion, you can make one more paragraph about your opinion. So from my point of view, give an opinion, you explain it, give an example, give a mini conclusion. If you don't have time for this, what you need to do at least is this: express your opinion here in the introduction and express your opinion in the conclusion. Taking into consideration all the facts mentioned above, I'm convinced that it is not until the family can afford to have an opulent marriage ceremony that they can actually hold such a party. Otherwise, this might not be not a very good choice. Okay, so please finish this essay. Write all the parts of main body paragraphs because some of you didn't have examples, some of you didn't write mini conclusions at the end. So please finish all this essay, send it to me by email. So not all people send the final email. It's very important to send them for me to check because then you will be able to see your mistakes in the final essay. So once again, here is my email. Please send me your essays to this email and I'll check them. On Thursday, we're going to have the speaking part, so please prepare. Well, you can send it to me during the week, maybe tomorrow, maybe until next, well, ideally until next Tuesday. So it will be your homework until next Tuesday to finish this essay. Okay, so, right. On Thursday, the topic that we're going to talk about, I mean, in part 1 is going to be sports. So if you want, you can think about physical exercise, types of physical exercise that you do, why sport is or important in our lives.